Elise Dewsberry here, now in the second year of my video blogs about how to get no feedback from Elise. And I wanted to, in this vlog and the next one, talk about, just quickly, about a couple of little sort of picky topics on the technical side. So this one, I'd like to talk a little bit about stage directions. I think one of the most important things to remember when you're writing your stage directions, or once you've gotten into the actual writing of your script, is that you cannot expect the stage directions to do all the work for you. Please remember that although it's fun to read interesting stage directions and you can get a lot of information from them, generally speaking, your audience does not get to read those stage directions. So the information that's in them is intended to give the director and the actors and the creative team some idea of the setting and the major actions that are taking place that they need to know about. But you have to be careful that you don't assume, and I find this happens a lot, that if you start a stage direction by saying, it's 1976, Joey enters the room with his mother, Anne. If you don't then in the scene have one character call the other character by their name and or somehow let us know that this is a mother-son relationship, the fact that you've written it in the stage direction does not mean your work is done. It's amazing to me how often a writer will go pages and pages and pages and pages without giving me the names of the characters because they're in the stage direction. It's a common thing, so I just want to point it out to you. Take a look at your stage directions and make sure that you aren't expecting that your work as a playwright is done because you have identified certain things in the stage direction. If you want your audience to know, take a look at the lines that are being spoken and the action that's happening and make sure that what you want them to know will be clear and that they won't have had to read the stage directions to figure it out. So that's one arena. Another thing is try to avoid using your stage directions to give a lot of directing notes to your actors. There's nothing wrong with saying in a little aside sarcastically or wiping a tear or laughing, or it's perfectly all right to indicate some of those major kinds of emotions. But if you start to get too particular and go on and on at length about exactly what's going on inside the head of the actor, to my taste, you're trying to become the director, which is not your job in this instance. It could be at some point, but right now you're writing a script. It's not your job, and a director reading the script won't be pleased that you're taking over their job. But also it indicates to me that you haven't been as clear as you can in the way you've written the lines to make sure that the lines make it very clear. I'm reminded of a story that my mentor John Sparks tells that I really love, where he said at one point he was directing a show and the actors were doing a scene and the writer would come up to him and say, "She's not saying that line sarcastically enough." And she kept coming and to John and saying, and finally said, in great angst, said, "I don't understand why she's not being sarcastic enough. What can I, as a writer, do? I've written in the stage directions it's sarcastic. I've made it really clear. How can I get this woman to say this line sarcastically?" And John's response to her was, "Well, you could write a more sarcastic line." And that's a one-liner version of it, but the idea is, yes, it's okay to indicate general ideas about what you're saying, especially if it goes against, if you want an actor to be playing against the text. But if what you want to get across isn't clear in the text, then you haven't finished your job. So try to avoid the desire to over-direct in your stage directions. And then the last thing I will say, and I've noticed this more and more recently, is make sure that your stage direction at the top of a scene is there only to set up for me what the scene is and who's there at the top of the scene. Don't use your stage direction to describe to me what is going to happen in the scene. I have seen that numerous times now, where at the top of the scene it'll say, Joey and Anne are together and they discuss whether or not they want to get married, and they decide they do. And then a scene follows that is that action. So that's not what a stage direction is for. It is not there to describe a scene to me. It should just say, we're in a diner, Joe and Anne enter and sit down. And then whatever happens in the scene is what happens in the scene. The stage direction is just meant to be there for setup. So these are picky technical things, but it makes a difference when someone is reading your script to their clarity of understanding and their ability to bring to life what you're writing. and also their response to your level of professionalism. If some of these things start happening in your stage directions, there's a chance that the person reading your script might think, I don't know that this is someone I'd want to work with because it feels to me like they're going to try to do my job for me if I'm a director, or they're going to try to push the actors a certain direction, or they don't really understand writing. So if you want to look professional and if you want to get your ideas across the way you want, then that's what you'll do. And now I have to answer the phone. So see you next time.